Are you looking for that fun and unique skirt to build? Well, today I'm going to be building this fun, unique A-line with a twist that I pattern drafted just a little while ago. Hi, I'm Christina and I'm super excited to be building this A-line with a twist skirt. I've made it in half scale and now I have the pattern ready so that I can make it for myself, and I am super excited. I've had quite a few people asking when the pattern is coming, and it is here. So you can definitely look down in the link below to get the pattern for yourself so you can sew along with me. So I got this really fun rainbow striped fabric from a thrift store for really cheap, and I have some black fabric that I don't think I quite have enough of, so I'll have to get some lining as well. But I'm super excited, so I'm going to hit print and get my pattern printed out so that we can get started. Let's go! Now that the pattern is printed off, I'm going to make sure that the 2x2 square is the correct size, and then I'm going to start cutting off the edges of the large squares so I can line up my patterns and tape them together. I'm going to make sure to tape them together anywhere that they're going to get cut apart so that they're all, when I'm cutting it, there's no like loose edges or anything like that. I'm going to continue taping this all together until I have the full pattern taped together, and then I'm going to cut out the size I want. Next, I'm going to quickly iron my fabric. I'm working with fabric from a thrift store. So I gave it a wash and now I'm giving it an iron, and I'm working with not quite enough fabric for this black underlayer. So I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to use some lining, a little bit of lining as well. So I'm going to first cut out my big piece here. This is the center front, that's the under flap for sure. Now this pattern does contain both the underskirt and the overskirt of this pattern. So I always cut the biggest I always cut the biggest one pattern piece out first, and then I'll go and cut the other one out. And you'll see that later. And now I'm going to cut out the center back pattern. Now I was trying to see if I could figure out a way to arrange all the pattern pieces so that I could cut out the front, the smaller front panel, the upper skirt, I guess, of the smaller front panel out of this fabric as well, and I could not, which I was pretty sure I wouldn't be able to anyways. So I'm going to cut that out of lining later, and I just folded the fabric in half and cut out my two center back pieces. Now I'm going to lay out the lining for the upper part of the skirt. I'm going to cut out the paper and the fabric at the same time for this one, since I'm using the exact same pattern for both the under and the upper skirt to save paper. This is the easiest way I could figure out how to do it. However, what I'm also going to do is immediately after I cut it, before I move it anywhere, I'm going to actually just tape it back together just in case anything goes wrong, or if I want to cut out a different piece, just so that I can have them together and they are still kind of joined. Now I'm going to lay out the rainbow fabric and I'm going to pin it down. This is so light, it moves so easily, so I want to pin it down so it doesn't move on me. Then I'm going to lay out all my pattern pieces. The other thing is I'm working with stripes, so I have to figure out how I want my stripes to lay on the entire garment and how I want them to match up in the long run. I decided to have the stripes going up and down on the bigger centerpiece, or the lower skirt. So the skirt that's peeking out, I'm going to have those stripes going up and down, which then as I follow it around would cause the center back pieces to go across. So that means I would want my center up top piece to also go across. But because there's a quarter of a circle in half of that thing, it does some funky things with the coloring, but I think it's going to work out. I stared at it a while and I really thought about it, and you know, it's okay. It's not my favorite skirt that I've done, but it's growing on me of how much I like the skirt now that it's finished. So now we're going to cut it out. Next, I'm going to put in the zipper to start. So I'm going to do a long basting stitch at the top of my center back seam, and then I'm going to back stitch in the middle at the bottom of where my zipper will be, and then continue all the way down to the hem. Then I'm going to press it open. I always love doing lap zippers, so we're going to put a lap zipper into this skirt. So I'm going to open up my zipper, I'm going to line up my teeth with my seam, and stitching through just the seam allowance and the zipper tape. With the zipper facing down, I'm going to do my first stitch, stitching my zipper to the seam allowance. Switch to a zipper foot, and we're going to stitch. Then we're going to flip the zipper right side up, and then we're going to stitch through the same seam allowance and through the same seam allowance and the zipper tape right next to the edge. So you don't want to cross the line of where your seam actually is. And it's creating a nice little fold that you're sewing into place. Then we're going to close the zipper and we're going to lay it nice and flat. And if you have fabric that is very woody or stretches on you, I would highly, highly recommend hand sewing and basting your zipper in. This fabric was very stiff and I could go straight into sewing it. So I'm going to start by sewing the bottom part of the zipper and then turning the corner and going up the edge, maintaining an equal distance from the zipper or from the seam line to my zipper opening, and then I will open up my seam that I originally stitched to have a functional zipper. Next, we're going to divert from the written instructions just a little bit because I'm going to have the top layer be its own skirt within itself, and then the bottom layer be its own skirt within itself. That way they are moving separately from each other and I don't have to hem them together. So I'm going to first line up the center back seam or the side seams of the overskirt that has the higher cutout, because that's going to be the closest thing. And then I'm going to then also pin the side seam of that under longer skirt to both side seams. That way I will have the lower black skirt all done and finished, and then the upper rainbow chiffon skirt will be its own separate thing. So I've pinned together the center back seam of the upper chiffon skirt, and now I am going to pin the side seams of the upper chiffon skirt. Now it's back to the sewing machine and we are going to straight stitch these down. So make sure you back stitch at the beginning and the end. And if you are going to sew over your pins, make sure you are being excessively careful with that, because your pins can still get stuck and hit, and it can cause problems. So just be careful if you're actually sewing over pins like I just did. Now we're going to do the chiffon. And I'm pulling my pins this time because it's the lighter weight fabric. There we go. And the other side. And the center back. Now I'm going to press all those seams open. This is also the time I went back and I pinked all of my seams because I didn't actually serge them to begin with because everything was going to be so sheer and I wasn't 100% sure how I wanted to finish it when I started building this. I went back and pinked everything to make sure that it would stay nice longer. Now I'm going to marry the two skirts so I have them both right sides facing out, and I'm going to pin them all the way around on the waistband so that I can then marry the two skirts in the waistband. Now I'm going to pin on that waistband all the way around. And sew it on. I'm using a 5/8 inch seam allowance and I'm going to just sew it on. If you find that your waistband was not quite matching up, you might have to clip into your skirt before you sew it. If it's not laying fully flat, I was able to lay it flat and I clipped into it after. Then I'm going to press that seam open and then press that seam up. So I want all of the raw edges up in the waistband completely hidden away because then I'm going to fold down the other seam allowance and fold it down on top of it. I'm going to fold the waistband back down so it's all contained. All of the raw edges of the waistband are then contained. And then I'm going to go and top stitch. I decided to do a top stitch because I was using black and I didn't want to do the stitch in the ditch. You could also do the stitch in the ditch, which is stitching right in between the waistband and the skirt. There we have it. So now all I need to do is I need to add my hook and bar onto my overlap of my skirt so that it has a nice closure. Now it's time to hem. So I'm going to put my skirt on my form and I'm going to measure using a hard ruler from the floor up the length that I'm wanting. It's helpful if you can do this on yourself just because dress forms are shaped slightly different than you sometimes. But if you don't have anyone to help you, get a dress form. It's very helpful. I also love chalk puff balls, but right now my chalk puff ball is out of chalk, so I need to get some more of that so I can use it. Those are also super handy, and then you don't have to deal with the safety pins all the time. You want to make sure that you actually let your skirt hang out though for 24 hours before you hem it, because we have a 1/4 of a circle skirt in there. The bias fabric will stretch, so you want to make sure that you can have it all stretched out before you hem it so that your skirt remains even after you hem it. There we go. So now I'm going to take the black lining up 1/2 inch from where I'm going to hem it. And then I'm going to actually leave the chiffon and 1/2 inch longer, just so that there's no possibility of the black peeking out where I don't want it to. And I can always have the nice rainbow fabric seam. Then I'm just going to cut off all that extra stuff that I don't want. Since I am just going to be doing a rolled hem, I don't have to add any fabric. If you're not doing a rolled hem and you're doing like a blind hem by machine or a turn, you do need to add fabric in. So make sure you know how you're going to be finishing your hem before you cut away your fabrics. Now it's to the serger, where I'm going to do a rolled hem. If you want to see how I set up the Baby Lock Imagine for a rolled hem, definitely check out this video here. I'll walk you through how you can set it up so that you can do this rolled hem as well. I love this rolled hem. I love the way it looks. I think it looks very sleek and nice, and it really, I just like the finish of it. The other thing that I didn't mention before is I actually unpicked the bottom like 3 inches of my side seams because I have 2 different skirt parts going into it in the front, and I want to make sure I hem them all the same. So I just open them up and I will go back and sew them back together after I have roll hemmed the entire skirt. And there is the upper skirt. Ooh, look at it go. I love it so much. Sometimes with the chiffon, if you get slightly off and the fabric slips, you do have to do that reset that I just did there. But if you just go back a little bit, you can cover it up real quick and real easy. That's why I love that rolled hem. It's real quick and easy to fix a lot of small mistakes, and I really do like the look. And now we're gonna actually re-sew up those bottom 3 inches that I opened up for hemming everything. So I'm just gonna go and re-stitch them back together so that they are good. The last thing I'm gonna do, since I did have 2 skirts and I married them together, I am going to pin prick stitch my zipper opening so that the little placket of the chiffon is married to the black under layer. That way it never gets caught in the zipper or it never opens funny. And I'm just going through with a prick stitch to get it all sewn in there. And there is the final look. Ooh, I'm so excited to take her out dancing. And there we have it. We now have an A-line skirt with a twist. I am super, super pumped to take this skirt out dancing. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe so that you can see other videos like this. Or if you want to see how this video was patterned, definitely make sure to check that one out right up here. I hope to see you in some of my other videos. Happy patterning!